Hello and welcome to the Business Talk podcast. I'm your host Deepak. I'm delighted and honored to welcome Dr. Irina Cozma, a renowned coach, speaker, trainer, and consultant dedicated to helping professionals create better career adventures as our distinguished guest on today's podcast episode. Over the past 2 decades, Dr. Cozma has coached hundreds of C-suite executives, leaders, and entrepreneurs across various industries, including finance, technology, healthcare, and automotive. With a professional background in coaching, training, and consulting for multinational companies, she brings a deep understanding of leadership needs across different levels and regions. Her experience includes leadership roles in technology and finance for Fortune 500 companies. Having lived, studied, and worked in 4 countries, Dr. Cozma holds a PhD in organizational psychology from Haslam College of Business at the University of Tennessee, and a MA in strategic HR management from Spain, and MA in organizational psychology from Romania. She is a frequent contributor to Harvard Business Review and teaches at Purdue Global. Additionally, she is an ICF certified coach. In this episode, Dr. Irina Cozma will share key insights from her research, unlocking potential executive coaching strategies for high performance leadership. It's time to warmly welcome Dr. Irina Cozma to the podcast. Having you with us today, Dr. Irina, it's both an honor and privilege.
Thank you, Deepak, for having me. Thank you. Such an interesting topic. I can hardly wait for us to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Irina. Dr. Irina, your journey as a coach and trainer is truly inspiring. The impact you create through your work reflects not only your expertise, but also your deep commitment to helping others grow. Could you please share what key leadership challenges do executives commonly face and how does executive coaching help address them?
Sure, great question. I think everybody around the world, not just now, but for a couple of decades, I would say, they are facing with this need to make decisions under uncertainty. So make decision without having all the data, without having complete data, or having messy data, or having contradictory data. So this decision making under uncertainty, it's a thing that I think it's on the top of all the executives. There is a lot of technology disruption, cyber security threats, political changes, economical challenges. So lots of things on the brain of our executives. And on top of that, we have the people. People, they need to be motivated, they need to be inspired, they need to be engaged. So all of these are things that leaders pay attention to, and they need to find their way through. And what a coach can do for them is to stop them in their tracks and make them think deeper. I remember when I was working in consulting in corporate, there were a couple of times when I had this scary moment. I realized that weeks are passing by, months are passing by, and I did not had a moment to think. I just did. I just did and I did and I did. And there was no moment for me to stop and actually think deeper, connect the dots, do more strategic thinking. So in the midst of all the chaos, it's very difficult for leaders to stop. I know that usually they one of the reasons why they don't engage in coaching is because they say I'm too busy. But that's exactly why they should engage in coaching, so they can troubleshoot this business they are
Yeah,
in.
very insightful, Dr. Irina. Thank you. Having said that, in times of uncertainty or crisis, what coaching techniques help leaders build resilience and adaptability?
Sure, a couple of things. Couple of example maybe from what I'm doing with my executive in the coaching sessions. One thing that I'm very fond of is doing what I call pre-mortems. So we are preparing in advance for difficult meetings, difficult conversations, and that gives a chance to the executive to think through some potential options. They might think about, okay, if that goes wrong, what I'm going to do, what are my limits, what I'm willing to negotiate, what I'm not willing to negotiate. We are literally going down to the words, like what words are you going to say at the beginning of the meeting? What's the core sentence that you are going to anchor yourself? So a lot of this mortem play, or kind of role play almost. That's very useful for the brain to be kind of rehearsing in advance a situation, and when the situation happens, you're not caught off guard because you prepared for different options. And that's kind of one other thing that I will add beside this pre-mortems. Thinking about the options. Go to a meeting with option A, option B, option C, pluses, minuses, pros and cons, and allow your brain to be prepared for different outcomes. And maybe that's not the only meeting you are going to have, and what you can accomplish in this meeting and what you accomplish to the next meeting. So yeah, a lot of kind of preparing in advance the brain for what is coming, and role playing, and also asking the leaders to think what else in their context can help them during those difficult situations. They should expand their network. They should find allies so they're not alone going through all of these challenges. So these are a couple of things that I'm always working with my clients.
Interesting. How does executive coaching foster self-awareness? And why is it a critical component of high-performance leadership? And could you please share a little bit of examples, one or two examples from your coaching assignments?
Yes. Well, to answer your last question, why is important? But if you don't know, you cannot improve. So you need to
Correct.
you need to know first, and then you have a chance to do the work. Um, One thing that happens, I think it's a kind of a best practice in all the executive coaching, is to start a coaching engagement with assessments. So those assessments are maybe a first opportunity for an executive to have a mirror put in front of their face, and then maybe think about themselves and see themselves from a different lens. And usually, again, the gold standard of executive coaching is using a personality assessment and a behavioral assessment. So, like personality is what's innate in us, what's our defaults, and the goal is, again, self-awareness. The goal is not necessarily to change who we are. Like that's kind of hard to do, but the goal is to put some mechanisms and resources around some things, but also to be aware of what comes easy and natural to you. Like let's keep using that. That's useful information to have, but also let's make sure that derailers, they don't derail us too much. And then the behavioral assessment usually might be a 360 either survey based or interview based. I do the interview based. So I actually go and talk with people around that executive and collect data and see how this executive is being seen by others around them. And that's a very interesting mirror that they can look at. Sometimes are surprises, pleasant surprises. Sometimes like, oh, I did not know that people are seeing me like that. Sometimes it's more like red flag surprises and good awareness. And this kind of is a cornerstone. This assessment is a cornerstone for the coaching engagement that is going to follow. And it's good to have like a direction, like be aware, like you want to work on some things, but the people tell you these are the things that you should work on, and we'll try to find a common direction. So yeah, and then in each session, we are trying to come back to this. Okay, what did we learn about ourselves through this assessment, and how that information informs where we are in each session during the coaching engagement.
Dr. Cozma, does 360-degree really helps executives?
It's a good question. I would say a good 360 degrees help. And what I mean by that, there is some best practices around the 360. Like if you send it to only your friends, yes, it might not help you so much. So you have to send it to a number of people that are diverse enough that you are going to receive enough different information back. And also, so the quality of the people matters and the quantity. So if you send it just to 5 people or versus sending it to 20 people, it's a different conversation. The more the number, the more the input, you can see more the trends more clearly versus just opinions of people.
Yeah. Dr. Irina, people talked about blind spots. So what are some common leadership blind spots that executive coaching helps identify and address?
Yeah, I can talk about some that come to my session, clients that come to my coaching engagements, and I remember working more often. And I'm going to talk on this on terms of polarities, maybe, because there are some people who are either too nice and too accommodating, or are too tough and too direct. So these are two different type of blind spots, but it's on this continuum. So there are those people who are, uh, because they like to have relations, good relations with people, because they appreciate having other people around, having communities. The relationship thing is very important to them, and they are very nice and very accommodating and very helpful and always saying yes. And that creates problems for them because they don't have boundaries. They cannot have hard conversation. They cannot, they're running away from conflict. So that's a blind spot that sometimes we realize during the coaching conversation.
Excellent. Very interesting. Super. Thank you.
Can I give you the opposite
Sure, sure,
one? So
sure.
there is a
Please.
opposite. There are people who come and are on the other spectrum. They are very direct, very tough, very confrontational, which again, good and bad. None of them are good and bad necessarily. Like they're both good and bad. And with them, I need to make them self-aware of the implications of being like that and try to see how can they bring a little more the nice and the relationship and the care for the people, not just direct and abrupt at times.
Could you share some proven coaching framework or methodologies that have been particularly effective in shaping high impact leaders?
Yeah, maybe I would say first thing that comes to mind is that in general, I'm not a big fan of working with frameworks. I find them kind of constraining. But there is something that I'm using in the last couple of years in my coaching practices, and that's around the science of the brain and how the brain works and how that can be useful to us. So I try to educate more and more on neurosciences, and I bring that into my coaching conversation. So, for example, how the brain will benefit if we have more clear goals. If we don't tell to the brain what we want, the brain cannot help us. So other thing is like what words we are telling to the brain. If we tell to the brain words that are very emotionally charged, the brain is going to go in a confusing mode versus if we use different type of words that are more at least neutral, if not positive, the brain can function from a different place. So this is something that I'm bringing into my coaching sessions, the ability for us to keep using this brain in our advantage. And there is a lot of power there, and it's kind of free power at our disposal.
Dr. Irina, how does emotional intelligence factor into executive coaching? And what strategies can leaders use to enhance their EQ for better decision making?
Let's see, maybe I will answer this question again a little different. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the terminology emotional intelligence. I feel like it's such an overused word and everybody defines it differently and everybody understands different things from it. So it became a very confusing and a very vague label that is being used. So I'm trying to stay away from it. And I'm trying to replace it with more concrete and clear, different terminology. So, for example, one of it is uh, emotional regulation. That's a little more concrete to me. It's how you regulate your emotions. So that's a big thing in executive roles when, as we talk initially, like all these challenges and all these changes are coming. How do you as a leader stay balanced and not overreact to things? So working on emotional regulation is actually one of my favorite topics to work with my coaching clients, and I had a chance to work with some people only on that particular topic. So it's a lot of liberation that comes from people when they are able to regulate a little better their emotions. And another concept that again connected with emotional intelligence, but again, I'm using my own words for it, and actually it's not even my words in this case. Um, I don't know if you know about the platinum rule.
Yes.
Uh, so platinum rule is this idea that Um, Opposite than the golden rule, which was don't do to others what you don't like to be done to you. That's not enough. The platinum rule comes and say, don't do to others what they don't want to be done to them. And that requires some additional effort. And that's where maybe this empathy is coming into play. You know, like you need to make an effort now. You need to make an effort to understand what the other people want for you to be able to behave accordingly. And as an executive, as a leader, usually you have a team of people who are very diverse, and you have to understand how each of them might prefer to being interacted with. So much harder. But this terminology, emotional regulation and the platinum rules, are words that for me makes a little more sense. They are more concrete than the general emotional intelligence label.
Culture plays an important role to make people grow. So what role does executive coaching play in promoting a culture of continuous learning, innovation, and adaptability within organizations?
Mm-hmm. Oh, such a good question, such a big question. So maybe first I would say, if you see your leaders doing coaching, that's basically, you have the power of example right there in front of you, that is telling you that that's okay. These leaders are not perfect. They are working for them to become better at who they are and what they do, and that's okay. So I feel like that's the first signal, that it's such a useful signal for the organization to enable others to give them peace of mind that it's okay to go and learn and accept that you don't know everything about everything and you are not the best, and there is still room for growth. And then another thing that happens is, once executives go through coaching and they become better, they can engage differently in that organization. They can promote that continuous learning, and they can have different type of conversations, and that is going to lift everybody up. And yeah, I know many times now we hear about organizations that are focused on performance. I'm a much bigger fan of hearing organizations focusing on learning. I think, it's so much more power in there.
How can organizations and leaders measure the tangible impact of executive coaching on performance and business outcomes?
Oh, another $1 million question. So there are, I would say, mostly indirect ways of doing that, but definitely you can reach hard metrics when you think about coaching. I mean, the simplest example I can think of, you can measure the whatever metrics a group, a team, a division had before and after one or multiple executives in that division went through coaching, and you can see if there is a change. I will say that usually there is more than one variable to impact an outcome. So it might be a little messy there to make the direct connection. There might be other things that happen in those businesses beside this executives doing coaching. But that's one thing that can be attempted. And then maybe a little more clear, but still a lot of messiness there. But clear metrics would be to look at the employee retention of those leaders who went through coaching. And again, hopefully, and again, here is where scale and numbers matter. Like if it's just one or two people, again, there might be so many different things and different noise in the system that created people to leave or to stay. But if you have enough sample, maybe you can see a little some trends of people who got coaching versus people who did not got coaching, and how the retention in their teams and divisions are. And kind of similar with the employee engagement survey. I mean, all the organizations are doing at least once per year, if not twice, is employee engagement. And again, you can see the numbers and compare those who did coaching and those who did not. At a more very personal level, you can look at that particular executive. I mentioned assessments earlier, so that executive can do another 360, maybe 1 or 2 years later, and see if it's different than the initial assessment. But I would say all these metrics, I think one thing that happens beside the noise and the messiness of the data, it's also how fast, how soon you do these measurements, because changing human behavior takes time. And don't go and measure it 3 months or not even 6 months after somebody starts a coaching engagement. So it's kind of more like an art and a science. When do you do the measurement so you can actually see those behaviors. I mean, the leader needs to have the behaviors, the team needs to have an impact. So there is a longer timeline there that is important to see when do you do these measurement points.
Yeah. Dr. Cozma, my last question. With evolving workplace dynamics and AI-driven decision making, how do you see executive coaching adapting to future leadership challenges?
Oh, yeah, we couldn't have this session without talking about AI. Two thoughts I have about AI. Maybe one would be that, for example, in my own coaching sessions, I am actually pushing my leaders to go and use AI in between our sessions. I'm kind of even a little shaming them if they don't already use AI, like you are behind, you have to go on board and using it, both for your business, but also for yourself or what we are doing in coaching. So I'm not worried that AI is going to take my job, but I understand that my clients can do so much more in between the sessions if they take advantage of AI. So I'm all for it, and I'm encouraging my clients to use it. And maybe my last thought on this one. There is something to be said about team coaching. So I think team coaching is a little harder to be disrupted by AI. So it might come one day, but for now, I feel like those who do team coaching are in a more safer space. And again, I don't think the one-on-one coaching is in any huge danger anyway, but team coaching, there is so much happening in those dynamics and on those facilitation that yeah, AI is definitely not there to even supplement too much that type of interaction.
Dr. Cozma, could you please share your research journey from being a corporate executive to researcher and then trainer and coach and consultant?
Thank you for this question, Deepak. I think many of these things that you mentioned were happening in parallel for me. So it was not just so sequential necessarily. Um, I opened my coaching business while I was working at a consulting company. So I was a solopreneur and working in consulting. I worked in corporate America for several years. And during that time, I also decided that I want to teach at a university. So I added that. So it's kind of, I follow wherever my interests were. And I never said no to myself if something was interesting to me. So I don't know if there is a lesson there for our listeners. You don't have to choose necessarily. You can do multiple things in parallel and see where your interests take you.
Dr. Cozma, it has been an absolute privilege to have you on this episode. Your insights into executive coaching, leadership development, and career growth have been truly enlightening. From discussing the power of self-awareness and emotional intelligence to the tangible impact of coaching on leadership effectiveness, you have provided valuable takeaways, both aspiring and seasonal leaders. To our listeners, I encourage you to explore Dr. Cozma's work, including her articles in Harvard Business Review and her coaching programs, to deepen your understanding of effective coaching strategies. Once again, thank you, Dr. Irina Cozma, for your invaluable contributions and sharing your expertise with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deepak. It was very nice talking with you.